scanning a QR code or scanning an RFID tag, and you're reading the equipment right now. It's immediately on your screen. You pull up the digital checklist, you go through, you identify issues that may need follow up. You can take pictures of it, you can make notes, and then you complete the inspection, pass or fail. Notifications are immediately sent to the appropriate parties.
You had mentioned one of the largest retailers in the world uses SIM daily. I mean, we're talking thousands of, checklists and, assets that need to be tracked, and tracking various worker training events, who's checked in and checked out. Equipment has saved something like 70% reduction in inspection related times. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in potentially decreased or eliminated OSHA fines, but labor-related costs, reduced labor-related costs. You mentioned productivity and how critical it is for a lot of these organizations, especially these large organizations that are well into commercialization, right? Some of the largest organizations in the country, saving 70% of reduction just in inspection-related time. I mean that's a significant metric.
I think that's a great point. So whether that results in kind of a labor efficiency and kind of reduced labor costs, or potentially that labor could be reallocated to proactive activities that drive more value across the organization. So it gives the business a lot of latitude to really take advantage of that.
How do I attach an ROI metric to this? Right? It's one thing saying, hey, I've saved time, right? But how do I equate time to dollars? At the end of the day, the guy that's in procurement that's trying to justify the cost of something like this, how can you justify the ROI for safety inspection manager?
Well, I think there's a lot of components that go into it, and some of the components may be higher magnitude at some companies versus others, right? If you just look at the time and the resources required in order to maintain the paper availability of the checklist out in the field, to actually go through and complete a checklist on paper versus digitally, probably about the same time, not much difference there. But then you've got the whole put it in a file folder, send it up to stores, put it in a filing cabinet. Lots of different hands are touching this. So how do you actually kind of take advantage of that efficiency? Or maybe some companies actually take a step and they actually input it into an Excel spreadsheet. So now you've got the administrative time of transitioning from paper-based keyboard, into a system. And there's potential that exists there. So if you've got unique identifiers on your equipment, maybe they get mistyped in the Excel spreadsheet. So there's opportunities for error. When you're using kind of a digital platform to do this, you're scanning a QR code or scanning an RFID tag, and you're reading the equipment right now. It's immediately on your screen. You pull up the digital checklist, you go through, you identify issues that may need follow up. You can take pictures of it, you can make notes, and then you complete the inspection, pass or fail. Notifications are immediately sent to the appropriate parties in order to either restore it in the digital kind of database or forward it to the right person to address the issues. That's pretty, when you sit there and you think about that in itself, that efficiency, that's the 70% more efficient to conduct the inspections. And then you look at the history of inspection related citations that might occur, based on an OSHA inspection or something like that. Then you look at deficiencies that contributed to, maybe an incident with injury or an incident without injury. What's the cost of that? I mean, so there's a tail of value that could be evaluated to establish what an ROI could be.
Yeah, well, I know the cost of the software is less than the cost of a record-keeping fine, let alone, let alone your average OSHA fine. So, I mean, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. And I think one of the things that you also had mentioned is, one of the largest airlines, top 3 airlines in the world, uses this, and they use it to check in and check out equipment actually. And it sounds like, what the problem that they ran into was they didn't know where their equipment was. They didn't know how it was being handled. And so there's equipment that, maybe ended up on eBay or one of these other sites, but now they have visibility into who's got equipment, who's checked in that equipment, who owns that equipment, and how are they using and handling that equipment.
And I would even add to that, the equipment that's being checked in and checked out is critical communications equipment for guiding airplanes into and out of gates. So having that equipment that's inspected properly and certified when it's given out to the employee to go perform their job on a shift is an additional risk mitigation, because now they're directing airplanes in and out of gates. You want to make sure that their headset and their hearing, their speakers are working the way they're supposed to, and they're able to verify that, and they've got records of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer. It's an insurance policy, if you want to look at it like that, from a risk standpoint.
Yeah.